Yes, so our split adjusted target is $22. The reason is very simple. Tesla is losing significant share in every single market. Their current capacity is above demand. This is happening despite the fact they're barely producing any cars at the Texas plant or Berlin plant. So they should be seeing tremendous growth. They're not. When people realize this, we think the stock comes under tremendous pressure. Sell-side research has declined significantly in value and has increased significantly in ridiculous. You have an analyst at Morgan Stanley that puts a price target. He applies valuation to Tesla for divisions they're not even in. So the reason why they're having problems is because you have better competition out there. The way I would think about this is Tesla's like the BlackBerry of smartphones.
Can you give Tesla a little kudos on anything?
Look, I'm talking about data. Forget about what Dan Ives, who I believe was involved in some securities issues before. Forget about what they say. Let's look at the data. They have a demand problem right now. Elon Musk will never achieve full self-driving with his current low-resolution cameras. You need LiDAR and radar. There are hundreds of papers online that say you need LiDAR and radar to reach full self-driving. This is dangerous tech. It will never work.
In this video, the extremely legitimate, highly competent, super credible class clown himself explains why Tesla stock is worth $22 per share, why Tesla will never solve autonomy, why Tesla's demand has collapsed, why Dan Ives and Ross Gerber, two long-term Tesla bulls, are not credible, and where you should invest your money instead of Tesla stock. And before we get into it, if you want to instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch in the merch store.
Gordon Johnson is with us, CEO, founder of GLJ Research. Thank you so much for being with us, Gordon. You've been a notable bear on Tesla for as long as you and I have had the opportunity to chat. And I'm always glad that you're on with us so that this way people don't say we only cover one side. Your target for as long as I've known you has been under $100 for Tesla.
Nicole makes a very good point here. Since the dawn of time, thereabouts, almost a decade ago, Gordon Johnson has been publicly critical of Tesla, telling people to sell the stock, saying it's way overvalued, coming up with every excuse under the sun as to why this company is a piece of shit and you shouldn't own the stock. Here's GLJOKE back in 2013 appearing on CNBC explaining why the Model 3 was vaporware and why it was impossible for Tesla to continue to drive the cost of their batteries down. Comments which have obviously aged extremely well, and I bow down to the analytical investing genius of Gordon Johnson.
Gordon Johnson, in your view, where should be valued at right now?
I think Tesla's a $50 stock.
Split adjusted, $3.33 per share.
Essentially, people are valuing this car, again, based on a Gen 3 model for which there is no prototype.
That would be the Model 3 and Y, which we now know are literally taking over the fucking planet. Model Y, soon to be the world's best-selling vehicle by unit volume, already the world's best-selling vehicle by revenue. In fairness, back in 2013, we hadn't seen a prototype of these vehicles yet, but it was in Tesla's master plan. They told us what they planned to do, and since these comments from the class clown, Tesla has done what they said they were going to do. This is important. Credibility matters. There seems to be a recurring theme with Gordon. Just move the goalposts. Oh, well, the Model 3 and Model Y, whatever. Well, the competition's coming now. We're about to hear how there was no way Tesla would drive the cost of their batteries down. Well, they've done that as well. Who cares about the batteries? The competition's coming. Demand is collapsing. Blah, fucking blah, blah, blah.
Tesla's cars cost about $80,000 to $90,000 right now. They're using essentially laptop batteries. They're packaging Panasonic laptop batteries into these car batteries, which are effectively the bulk of the cost. How are they, those batteries have been scaled up. How are they going to get more costs out of that? I don't know.
Just want to show you folks a little bit of data. Now, just for the record, we are looking at a logarithmic scale here, so keep that in mind. Between 1991 and 2018, the cost of lithium-ion batteries fell by 97%. This is approximately where Gordon Johnson made the comments about him not being sure how Tesla would drive the cost of their batteries down any further. Since these comments, the cost of lithium-ion batteries has more than halved, and I'm sure Gordon knew this was coming. Let's look at this with a slightly different perspective. The price and market size of lithium-ion batteries since 1992. What we're looking at is the price per kilowatt hour. The axis running along the bottom here is the total size of the battery market. In other words, the more batteries produced, the lower the cost. This too is a logarithmic chart. So let's zoom in a little bit. Throughout the 1990s, in fact, not even the full decade, from 92 to 2000, the price of lithium-ion batteries more than halved. From 2000 to 2010, the price of lithium-ion batteries fell by approximately 75%. And from 2010 to 2016, once again, we saw the price approximately halve. So there's a fairly fucking clear trend here. Make more lithium-ion batteries, costs come down. At the time our friend the class clown made these comments, it was evident that the price of these batteries was declining over time, yet
I don't know how they're going to get the cost down any further. They're essentially laptop batteries.
the reason I point this out is just to illustrate the absurdity of Gordon's arguments even a decade ago, explaining why Tesla was overvalued, blah, 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 blah. Nothing he's ever said has ever made any sense. It's just a matter of moving the goalposts. Okay, well, that battery argument, I mean, it's pretty absurd now. They've reached million plus units per year. Can't probably say that anymore. I mean, the evidence here, last couple of decades, from $5,000 per kilowatt hour down to under 200. Probably better not say that again. What can we say now? Oh, demand is collapsing. Competition is coming. Market share losses. On and on and on and on.
I think the stock is grossly overvalued. I think the correction is not anywhere near done, and I'm selling the stock.
For the record, these comments, Gordon Johnson selling Tesla stock, went to air November 2013. Tesla around $9 per share, up a mere 2,100% since these comments. If you, as an investor, had been following the advice of Gordon Johnson, you would have sold Tesla stock around $9 per share and missed out on over 2,000% growth in less than the next 10 years. And now, with that important historical context out of the way, let's hear what Gordon has to say about Tesla stock today.
As we've seen it recently crossing $900 once again, and a lot of people out there that are very bullish with $1,000 plus targets. Where do you stand now on your target and why?
Yeah, so our split adjusted target is $22. The reason is very simple. Tesla is losing significant share in every single market. US, their share is down roughly 10% Q1 to Q2. China, their share fell from about 11% to 8% Q1 to Q2. And in Europe, their share fell from about 18% to 9% Q1, Q2. Number one.
Now, if you're not particularly sharp, which would make you Gordon Johnson's target audience, this might sound a little bit troubling. Their market share is falling in every continent. Oh my gosh, that's terrible, right? Wrong. I've covered this before. It's quite simple. If only one company is producing electric vehicles on the planet, they automatically, by default, have a 100% market share. As soon as a single other company produces a single other electric vehicle, I literally mean one other electric vehicle, suddenly company A has lost 100% market share. Their market share is collapsing, it's falling. You see how this doesn't make any sense? Company A is increasing its production and selling more and more electric vehicles quarter after quarter, year after year. Yet other companies are beginning to produce their own electric vehicles. By default, the market share as a percent of all electric vehicles of the first company is going to be declining. Yet they're still increasing their unit volume. Which of these metrics matters? Increasing the number of electric vehicles you're producing and selling to customers, or how many other companies are starting to steal some of your market share? Oh no, they took 1% over in Europe. Again, I do want to emphasize this is something that's fairly self-evident, but if you're not super smart, and I'm not trying to be obnoxious here, I'm just being honest, you might hear that,
Oh, that's bad, right?
wrong. Percentage market share of electric vehicles in general is completely irrelevant to the conversation. I mean, like, completely irrelevant. It does not matter. What matters? Are you selling more electric vehicles week after week, quarter after quarter, year after year? If yes, then who gives a fuck about relative market share? No one. Actually, I need to make a correction. When I said no one, I mean no one whose brain works. In completely unrelated matters, I don't know why, but a tweet thread has just appeared on my screen from October 2020. Gordon Johnson writing, "Guy, you're doing God's work. Keep it up." Tim Seymour on. See less. Sorry, I always get his name wrong. The guy that has the CNBS stock fund thing. Literally, by the way. The irony. Indeed, Gordon. As are you on Tesla. Preach. Okay, so Tim Seymour on. Gobbling up Gordon's research. Taking it hook, line and sinker. Implying that Gordon is doing God's work when it comes to sharing his Tesla research. Gordon responding, "You wouldn't believe the threats sent my way nearly daily for having an opinion. My wife made me install a security system." Now, in fairness, there are some morons, Tesla fanboys, who are literally absolutely fucking brain dead, who will threaten people for having a differing opinion. If that's you, get the fuck off my channel and never come back. Thank you, you're a piece of shit. Tim Seymour, getting very conspiratorial. "I do believe it, and it comes from the top over there. We know that. The irony of the tree huggers being more aggressive than the ones they lament." Anyone get the sense that Tim Seymour may have been blinded by his opinion of quote-unquote tree huggers? Maybe missed the opportunity in Tesla, been very negative on the company, thought Gordon was producing legitimate research because for some reason he refers to people that care about the environment as tree huggers? Nah, that wouldn't happen. Gordon continues, "Short-based research should be priced at a premium. My peers don't have to fear for their life." Not kidding. And the final irony-laden doozy here from Tim Sealess, "Teslemmings," that would be you and I, ladies and gentlemen, "are a unique breed of Kool-Aid drinkers." The irony here. Teslemmings, as in Tesla fans, are lemmings. They just follow the leader, don't do their own thinking, blindly following, just drinking the Kool-Aid. I, for one, think the Kool-Aid tastes delicious, and also, Tim himself certainly hasn't drank the Tesla Q Kool-Aid. You still short, Tim?
Number two, their lead times are coming down significantly. Their lead times for the Model Y in China were roughly 24 weeks a few weeks ago. Now it's 4 weeks. What that means, by definition, is that their current capacity is above demand. Keep in mind, this is happening despite the fact they're barely producing any cars at the Texas plant or Berlin plant.
Let's walk through the logic in this argument. Tesla's lead times, their wait times are coming down. At the exact same time, they're simultaneously ramping 2 brand new facilities, meaning they're producing more vehicles, and massively expanding an existing facility in China, and eking out incremental capacity increases in Fremont. So Tesla's producing more and more vehicles day after day, week after week, month after month, quarter after quarter. They're growing their production, and as a result, the amount of time people need to wait to take delivery of a Tesla vehicle is trending down. The only logical explanation is that demand is collapsing, not that production is increasing, because I'm smart.
So once they start producing more of those cars, they're going to likely have to cut prices significantly.
I'm not sure if Gordon's been reading Tesla's secret master plan, but that's literally the fucking point. They intend on massively reducing prices across the board. That's how they go from 1.5 million electric vehicles per year to 20 million electric vehicles per year. This is in the plan. This is why they're producing vehicles locally on multiple continents now. Got to give credit to Gordon here. He's setting up an argument in a few weeks and months' time.
Look, they're cutting prices. Demand's collapsing. The only reason they're cutting prices is because there's no demand.
Again, I go back to Tesla's master plan. It's literally in their fucking master plan. Drive costs down. Sell more vehicles. The only reason prices have been increasing over the last 18 months is because demand is absolutely fucking absurd. Prices should have been declining significantly from day one. But unfortunately, Tesla's products are so compelling. There's so much demand for their products, they've been forced to massively increase prices temporarily. So good setup here, Gordon. Watch, a couple of months' time, he'll be in the media, prices will be coming down because Tesla will be massively ramping Austin and Berlin and the Shanghai Gigafactory, driving costs down even further, massively increasing volume, they'll be able to supply more vehicles, and therefore they will eventually be able to lower prices without demand and wait times getting out of fucking control. Once again, if you're not particularly sharp, you might fall for this.
Wait a minute. What if prices do go down? Oh no, there's no demand.
But here's the thing, you can play this both ways. If prices go up, the only reason prices are going up is because they can't make their vehicles any more affordable. Costs are going up, they're not making any margin, soon they'll be bankrupt. And if prices are going down, the only reason prices are going down is because there's no demand. Again, if your brain works, you'll realize Gordon's arguments on pricing make absolutely no sense. If your brain doesn't work, how do you know if your brain doesn't work? If you're currently short Tesla stock, that's a pretty good sign. You might think, oh shit, he's got a point. I'm gonna double down on my short. PS Mum, I'll be up for dinner soon.
And what did we get last week? Last week, we got a 20,000. They introduced a car in Europe. It's roughly 16,000 euro less than the cheapest Model Y. They introduced a Model Y that's 60,000 less. That suggests a demand problem.
That suggests a demand problem. Yep, let's not talk about the fact that that actually suggests that Tesla's ramping up production of Europe-made, made in Berlin vehicles, and therefore they can lower the prices. Anyone who actually believes what Gordon's saying and think he has a reasonable argument is literally suffering from brain damage. Prove me wrong.
So despite that fact, this company is valued at more than the next 13 largest automakers combined, yet sells just 2% of the cars they do. So they should be seeing tremendous growth. They're not. When people realize this, we think the stock comes under tremendous pressure.
They should be seeing tremendous growth, but they're not. I just can't even. Apparently growing your production in excess of 50% per annum is not tremendous growth.
Why do you think demand is going to really outpace their production capacity? I mean, there's no doubt that they have the capability to increase production. In fact, at the Fremont plant, I saw that production had increased about 10%. I saw, year-end goals for 1.5 million and maybe going forward annual units of 2 million. And so, and Texas, Germany, Shanghai, so many plants to meet up with, everybody in the world wanting a Tesla. You're saying that all the other competitors are taking market share. Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because I will tell you, every person I have on the show, all the analysts who cover this, why do you think all the analysts are still so hot on Tesla? Play that devil's advocate. Why are they so hot on Tesla and still think it's the market leader?
Now, I'm going to share a very controversial hypothesis. I think the reason most people discussing Tesla stock, most analysts covering Tesla stock, are bullish on Tesla stock is because they're sharing their thoughts about Tesla the company and Tesla stock, as opposed to Gordon, who I personally think it's possible may not actually be sharing what he thinks about the company, but what he's supposed to think and say about the company, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know what I mean. I'm not saying, I don't know why I said that. Not implying anything. Gordon's very legitimate. Very legitimate.
In the age of Chairman Powell and ridiculous valuation, sell-side research has declined significantly in value and has increased significantly in ridiculous.
I can't handle this. The irony. The most ridiculous stock analyst I've ever heard talking about any company ever, not just Tesla, ever. is labeling other analysts covering Tesla, the bullish analysts, as ridiculous. Pot, kettle, black.
You have an analyst at Morgan Stanley that puts a price target. He applies valuation to Tesla for divisions they're not even in. So, and with respect to you saying everybody wants a Tesla, that's just not true. Their growth in Q1 before any factory closures was flat. Their growth in Q2 was down significantly. And now lead times are falling and they're introducing significant price cuts in Europe. We think soon to come in the US. The reason why they're having problems is because you have better competition out there. The Iconic 5, the Kia EV6, the Ford Mach-E, the Ford F-150 Lightning. You have better cars, better interiors with longer real-world range out there for cheaper than the price that Tesla's selling at. So it's like, the way I would think about this is Tesla's like the BlackBerry of smartphones.
Heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Tesla is the BlackBerry of smartphones.
And you have all these new entrants coming in that are taking share.
Yeah. Okay. So I love when you're able to come on the show because I think it really provides us a really balanced conversation. So I'm glad you're here. At the same time, when I said people I have on the show regularly are bullish, and you said that's not true. Well, I can tell you, and you can rebut this, but give me a moment to finish my thought. Dan Ives of Wedbush. Garrett Nelson, who's a regular guest on our show, often likes that stock, and EVs in general, but often likes that one. Steve Wesley, who of the Wesley Group, who prior he sat on the board of Tesla, and also Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki. These are just some folks who think that the Model Y is on track to be a bestseller. The Cybertruck has potential. We've had the news that Elon Musk wants to go, driverless by the end of the year. I mean, there's still a lot of folks who are very hot on this. So what is it about the fact, and batteries, that they're going to be big on batteries? They've made it through the supply chain issues by having their own factories all over the world. I mean, you don't think they did a good job? Can you give Tesla a little kudos on anything?
Well, it's not about giving them kudos or not giving them kudos. I think the stock is significantly overvalued. And if you have investment managers who are long the stock coming on and, talking about their position, I don't think that's representative of the data. Look, I'm talking about data. Forget about what Dan Ives, who I believe was involved in some securities issues before.
That is a big statement from Johnson there, implying but not actually saying anything directly about Dan Ives with some securities issues there. Again, the reason he's doing this is to diminish Dan Ives' credibility, much like I've done, pointing out Gordon Johnson has been saying that he was selling Tesla stock back in 2013, just like he explained that they wouldn't be able to drive the cost of their batteries down, and the fact that the Model 3 was essentially, I see what I did there, essentially vaporware. So, we're using the same tactics here, pointing to the credibility or lack thereof of people sharing their thoughts and opinions. But as I said, I don't know what the he's talking about with Dan Ives, so I'm just going to let that one slide.
Or what Ross Gerber, who doesn't even, admittedly, long ago said he doesn't even have an EPS number for Tesla. Forget about what they say. Let's look at the data.
That's right. Forget about them. I've discredited them. Let's look at the data. And by data, I mean my distortion of the facts, my cherry picking of specific numbers to paint a ridiculous counter-reality narrative.
Right? The data is their growth has stopped, right?
I fucking called it. Let's look at the data. Follows up with an example of supposed data, which is in fact not only not data, but also just not true. Their growth has stopped. He literally just said, let's look at the data. Forget what they say. Discredit these guys. Forget what they say. Let's look at the data. The data is Tesla's growth has stopped. Nobody whose brain works is gobbling this stuff up. Nobody.
I'm not saying they're not going to grow in Q3, but they didn't grow. They were flat in Q1. They were down in Q2, right? Despite the fact that they're valued at more than the next 13 largest automakers combined and just sell 2% of the cars they do. So their growth should be expanding significantly.
Puzzling comments here. He's making the argument Tesla's valuation is insane and saying the only way this would make sense is if they were growing significantly, which they are. And then he goes on to suggest that they're not growing at all. It really does disturb me that there are people out there like Tim Seeless who hear comments like this and suggest that Gordon is doing God's work when it comes to sharing his legitimate research about Tesla stock. Admittedly, in the almost 2 years since Tim Seymour posted those hilarious comments on Twitter, he may have since lost all of his money shorting Tesla stock and changed his tune, I don't know. But it just puzzles me that anyone could possibly take anything this guy says seriously. How can he say with a straight face that Tesla isn't growing? He's literally said that they're not growing. Growth has stopped.
If their lead times are coming down, that means without the Berlin and Texas plant fully ramped, they're already seeing production ahead of demand. This isn't my opinion. This is just fact, right? So when you factor all that in and they just introduced this cheap car in Europe, they have a demand problem right now.
If you say something's a fact, it's a fact. And as we heard, it's a fact that Tesla, quote, has a demand problem. Yeah, way too fucking much of it, Gordon.
And I want to get to the full self-driving. Listen, Elon Musk, and I want you to understand this, will never achieve full self-driving with his current low-resolution cameras. And I want to explain this. Here's what an engineer told us today. Tesla's approach of clustering multifocal cameras in the center of the car means the system must guess the distance based on the size of an object. You can't achieve this with low-resolution cameras. You need LiDAR and radar.
1. Never is a very strong word. 2. According to the claim from Gordon here, it is necessary to have both LiDAR and radar in order to be able to gauge the distance of objects and so on, which is exactly why the many hundreds of millions of human beings today driving vehicles around, walking around, moving throughout the world, interacting with objects, are incapable of gauging distance, velocity, or anything else of relevance, and that's why we can't walk, can't stand, we can't pick up or move objects, and of course, as soon as we get into a vehicle, we automatically crash instantly, because we don't have LiDAR and radar. There's all the proof you need. Game over. Tesla's autonomous efforts are doomed.
There are hundreds of papers online that say you need LiDAR and radar to reach full self-driving.
So I've got to give some credit to Gordon here. He does have a point. There are many so-called experts claiming that it's impossible to solve autonomy or to be very difficult without LiDAR and radar. I mean this with the utmost disrespect. They're all morons, and they will be proven wrong. As I alluded to earlier, there are examples of literally hundreds of millions of neural nets plugged into a pure vision-based system today that are relatively competent at driving vehicles. Humans. The argument that additional sensors beyond what human beings have are necessary to solve autonomous driving is nonsensical. You may argue, well, it's going to take a long time. That's a totally separate argument. Gordon has said Tesla will never achieve autonomy without this hardware. This is just obviously wrong. It's counter to reality. We have examples of systems, humans, with cameras and neural networks that don't need LiDAR and radar. This argument doesn't have legs to stand on, and these so-called experts are all wrong. Of course, this is definitely the first time in history that industry experts have ever been wrong about anything to do with technology, right? There are countless examples. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about some of the genius physicists who said we've solved all of physics, there's no new discoveries 100 years ago. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is extremely dangerous to outsource your thinking on any topic. Especially, oh, they're an expert. They can't be wrong because they're an expert. I don't need to think about this myself because they're an expert and their opinion is this. If that's their opinion, this is obviously the only way things can be. They can't be wrong because they're an expert.
So I think Elon Musk knows this, right? I think he knows that he's not going to reach full self-driving. This auto engineer tells me the issue with these cameras is if you have multiple objects, cameras can't tell the size of the different object. So what that means is it has no idea what the size or how far it is, so that it would consistently cause crashes and stop short.
Yeah.
This is dangerous technology. The NTSB has made multiple recognitions to NHTSA to take this off the road. NHTSA has ignored it. I think that's why so many people think it's okay, because NHTSA is showing a dereliction of duty. This is dangerous tech. It will never work.
Big word. It will never work. In addition, it's dangerous, which is exactly why it's allowed to operate on roads today. It's dangerous. The bodies responsible for determining whether or not this is dangerous have determined it's not dangerous, but they're all obviously wrong and incompetent, according to Gordon Johnson. I'd love to see a collaboration between Scammo Clown and Gordon Johnson. I'm sure they'd have a lot to say about Tesla's autonomous software.
Him saying year end, I think, is just him throwing the ball in the air and hoping that people just forget about this. Unless he puts LiDAR and radar on those cars, based on the experts, he'll never achieve full self-driving. This is dangerous.
Okay.
And the public who didn't sign up for this shouldn't have to be exposed to it.
Okay, listen, 10 seconds. Do you have a favorite company? I don't want to leave this out. Is there a favorite company? I don't even want to hear why. Do you have a favorite company in the EV world?
We love the nuclear space because nuclear is real. It's a real answer to climate change. It's real technology. It's distributed base load. I think the world has to go that way. If it doesn't, I think we're in trouble.
It's a rare moment indeed when I find myself agreeing with the laughingstock of Wall Street, the intellectual punching bag, the class clown himself. But in this case, he's spot f***ing on. Nuclear power should form a significant portion of global energy generation. But of course, most people are suffering from fear-induced brain damage. They're allergic to the idea of nuclear. Therefore, it's unsafe. It's going to kill everybody on the planet. It's bad for the environment. Much better to be relying on oil from, I don't know, the Saudis and the Russians and whoever the f*** else until we can fully transition to solar, wind, hydro, and battery.
Gordon Johnson, thank you very much. Wonderful to see you. I know they're working on a virtual power plant for Tesla in Japan. Neither Dan Ives nor Ross Gerber here, also friends of our network, Gordon, just like you, to have the other side of the conversation with you to protect themselves. But we're glad to have this conversation time.
Happy to chat with those guys anytime, Nicole. And thank you for having me on.
Gordon Johnson, thank you, CEO, founder of GLJ Research. Thank you so much. And his price target, by the way, $22 right now, split adjusted. Tesla is trading at $281 and change.
Well, as always, it's fantastic to hear Gordon Johnson's arguments. I was going to say thoughts, but I don't actually think he believes what he says. They're well-constructed arguments that prey on one part of the bell curve, actually one extremely far end of the bell curve. But if you give even a fraction, a millisecond of thought to any of his points, you realize they make absolutely no fucking sense and literally run counter to reality. In all seriousness, it's very important to hear the other side. The problem is, I'm yet to find any reasonable bearish arguments on Tesla. I really do mean that. I like to hear the opinions of others and to think through their reasoning, their logic, or lack thereof. I've yet to find anyone who is bearish on Tesla who says anything that makes any reasonable sense other than, I don't believe they'll grow as much as you do, which, well, we'll have to wait and see on that one, won't we? Or a bunch of hypotheticals, the competition will come. Okay, cool, it's been coming all over itself for the last 15 years. But it's obviously going to be different this time, right? But this seems to be the best we've got. The best argument against Tesla. It's falsehoods. No demand, they're not growing. It is important to factor in the credibility of the people sharing their thoughts and opinions. As I pointed out, Gordon Johnson has been anti-Tesla, saying the stock's overvalued since 2013. He's been wrong on every one of his previous points. But now the goalposts move. I've got to say, it's an extremely bullish sign if GLJOKE is the best we've got. Something to consider. And lastly, don't forget you can support the channel and instantly unlock well over 100 videos. My Tesla stock price targets out to 2032, which make Gordon's look like an absolute fucking joke. Loads of other content and perks by joining Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. See you guys over there. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel and instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch in the merch store. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. Please let me know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below, and click the card on screen now to watch the next video.